Zohar Mandani has been the mayor of New York since January, and already socialism has caused 11 people to freeze to death. I thought it would take a lot longer than that, I'll admit it, but it's true. Zohar Mandani does not want to remove homeless people off the sidewalk um, because it's very progressive to leave the unhoused where they are. And because of that, 12 people died of hypothermia. And this is underscores the insanity of and delusion of left-wing ideology and progressive ideology. They actually indulge people's fantasies as if they are real. And it's really harmful. In the same way that if we would see somebody about to jump off a building, we would do anything to stop them because we know that they're not in their right frame of mind. And we know that life is precious. So if somebody says, I choose to sleep on the street in sub-zero weather after a snowstorm, we say no. We say you can't do that. We arrest them because that person is putting their life at risk. And that is not an option. So socialism kills and progressivism kills. Another amazing story on that same light is that finally we found the reason why God created trial lawyers in a major lawsuit against a surgeon that was by a detransitioner who was mutilated by the surgeon when she was too young to really give consent, and now she's detransitioned and she's been mutilated and she got awarded $2 million. And this is the end of the whole trans movement, because once lawsuits starts happening in America, it's over. And you already see now the Plastic Surgery Association now saying that it's not recommended for people under 19. They don't alleviate. They have no evidence that alleviates actual pain. There's any medical reason for this. Of course, because you are the body that you are. And so this will be the end. This will be the end. Lawsuit after lawsuit will finally kill these demons. So that's fantastic. Thank God for trial lawyers. All right, something I want to talk about. Theory of mine. This is pure conjecture. I have very little evidence, but this is what I'm thinking. I've been thinking a lot about these, Epstein files that got released this week, and it seems that everybody was busy with Epstein. Democrats, Zohar Madani's mother, the Clintons, Trump, the British diplomats, the KGB, Israelis. Everybody, former Israeli prime ministers, everybody seemed to be busy with them. The Saudis, the Qataris, Noam, I'm just blanking on the name, famous intellectual, left-wing intellectual. Everybody was busy with Jeffrey Epstein. And even after he was found guilty to be a pedophile. And like, what's the deal? How's this possible? How can he be with everyone? Well, what's going on here? So I think Bill Gates, was very busy with them. What is this? This is my theory, and again, pure conjecture. But I believe that in a society where you have extremely, extremely wealthy people, extremely well-to-do, self-made people who often do not have any moral compass, who do not have any religion, find themselves just bored and just unwilling to live under normal. They think the rules. They just think the rules just don't apply to them. They think they can do anything because they're rich enough. These stories, the debauchery that comes out of the Epstein Island is reminiscent of pagan kings, ones that Roman kings, ones Caligula, things that people that stood over life and death of many people. And I think what Epstein was, you see this from his very early years with Lex Wexner, is there's something besides for being, they just want to speak out, despicable pedophile who I hope he rots in hell. He seemed to have been a talented connector. He seemed to have been somebody, this is the way people speak about him, how he could get anyone on the phone, how he could talk to them, how he understood every topic, how he knew the right person to speak to. He just seemed to be engaging enough, like a jack of all trades intellectually, and engaging enough to be able to connect people. And he was just able to, I guess, whether it was through, I guess, the glue was debauchery. And he could connect anybody, people that were not normal bedfellows, the Saudis, the Arabs, the Jews, anything that was a little underhand, or people wanted to get a meeting about something, he could just do it. And also, I think he gave people and in on the debauchery side to things that these very wealthy people believe should be theirs, but is despicable and is against the law. And I think they just felt like they're just such wonderful people just giving to humanity. They can just get whatever they want. Right? A lot of his big work was around charity work, and look at the way these people behaved. Such kind people behaving in the most abusive ways. And someone like Bill Gates threw away a life that could have been a beautiful life. He has a family, he had a wife, and he threw that away because he just had no self-control. He believed the rules just didn't apply to him. And that's awful, both on a sort of personal level and on a public level. And I guess the lesson is that people really have to have some sort of anchor. And if one doesn't, and if one doesn't have clear guidelines, and this is, I'm a servant of God, so then they can just go off the rails. And in a society, where we become continuously richer and richer and have more resources and can provide more pleasure to ourselves, like we have to be grounded in what we're here for and what we're doing and why we're alive and why God made us. And I think without that, I think technologies like AI and which will certainly make us more materially richer. If we're not grounded in what's important, we could end up in just as in awful trouble that many wealthy people find themselves, that we see online. We see just the way they live, just the way someone like Jeff Bezos lives, just the way someone like Elon Musk just put out this week that it turns out money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a lot of distraction and excitement. And if we're not grounded in like, what is my purpose? What am I here for? What is my life for? Then one can be lost. And the other thing is something that Matt Walsh, I think, spoke about this week, and that is that a person must have um, excitement everywhere except his personal life. His personal life must be solid. His personal life must be grounded. And that is really the grounding that a family gives you. And that is really, the argument against people say, oh, what do people get out of marriage? What do people get out of marriage? People get out of marriage the ability to give and support a family. What people get to give in a marriage. People get to be bigger than themselves in a marriage. And that's the grounding of one's personal life. The excitement in life must come from one's career, one's professional. What is someone building? But you see these people that were clearly looking for excitement in their personal life to have without grounding, without, hey, this is not for me. This is not where I go. I don't go to these places. I don't do these type of events because I am bigger than that. You see, like a major conservative commentator this week got into it. I got into a terrible scandal, just clearly, an employee and employer just clearly not following proper guidelines. Not like, hey, I don't have personal relationships with the opposite gender outside of work. I am grounded in my family. So and so Epstein and his cohorts and his group were the extreme example of how not having proper guidelines will lead someone completely off the rails. But I think we all have to look into ourselves and see like what but I think that's what it was. And I think humanity without guidelines can do terrible things. And I'm not claiming the terrible things that they are accused of. That's beyond the pale. But people with power and without God might go off the rails. And this is a part of the dark side of humanity. And I think there's there's a famous Ramban on Chumash that talks about how someone climbs into the depths of immorality. And I think and what he says is that it's just stages. It's just one step after another. And these people without any guardrails and with unlimited funds just, I think, felt like they just did one thing after the other. And a guy like Epstein that traded in secrets and lies was there to lead them down into hell. Our lesson when we see such awful stuff is always to strengthen the guardrails in our own lives, to know what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, whether it's our internet usage or our professional conduct, because the right guardrails keeps a person on the path of God. All right, that'll do today, guys.